This is my bass bass recording for Am I Wrong? I've got here. First, we've got this channel compressor noise gate, just sort of cleaning up and things. I've got E-bass here, just sort of rolling off the really low ends, and then just sort of boosting up the bass frequencies here, and then um, boosting here around sort of 1K, a little bit under, just for sort of those harmonics and the sort of the higher attack of the bass, and then rolling off the high end as it's not needed. I think this is good. It gets rid of that really low end that no one's really gonna hear and just sort of muddies up the track. But you've still got this bit of bass boosted here, which still gives a strong low end. And then yeah, this just sort of for the harmonics, like I said, and then this sort of rolling off the higher ends because there'll be other elements of the track which will take up this space. Sort of like the vocals, cymbals of the drums, and possibly like somewhat of guitar and keys, but they'll be sort of more mid-range around here. But mainly sort of vocals and cymbals and stuff that can take up the higher ends of the track. And then we've got a compressor here, just sort of standard electric bass, not too harsh compression, but just some slight compression just to tighten up the track and give it a bit of a boost, which I think is good. And then I've also got a noise gate here, just sort of reducing any sort of unneeded pops or clicks or just any frequencies that aren't really needed to be heard and stuff. Now we've got the bass amp. This bass amp the is a 70s solid. I think I like the way it sounds. I think it's got a nice tone to it. The mic being fairly far out from the speaker, with sort of more towards the edge than the center. I sort of want it to be slightly more mellow than sort of having a more harsh sounding. And then I think I like having the distance. That's just my preference. I prefer having that sort of distance between the mic and the speaker. But you got the bass more turned up, the mids and the trebles sort of fairly turned down, so it sort of allows the low end frequencies to really push through and set the groundwork for the bass of the track, and sort of I see it as the bass is sort of one of the key instruments that sort of create the groundwork. I think as long as your bass, your kick, and your snare sort of together create a good groundwork for a track, then everything I think everything else can just easily slot into place on top. I think those are sort of the three main things that have to be sort of centered um, and sort of the main elements to the frame of the track. So the bass here is just sort of adds some texture and just it makes the bass actually sound nice, and gives the bass some character, which I think is good, and it sounds really good um, in the whole track. Originally, I had a Fat FX on it. It had Dirty Tube Wobble on. This was just sort of something. It was just an idea that I had that maybe I could add sort of some effects to the bass to make it sort of sound more more electronic and less sort of like it's a real bass. But at the end of the day, it was just sort of an idea that I was kind of fiddling about with, and actually wouldn't have really worked within the track. And I was thinking this isn't really looking at the overall song. Um, it's not really the kind of song that would that this would be sort of appropriate for. And so actually, I think it's better to have just sort of a fairly standard, normal sounding bass for this kind of track. And then I've also got a bus on with a sub bass. It's on kick warmer, even though obviously this isn't a kick. But I like that it just sort of adds warmth to the bass, and I think it allows the bass to sort of blend with the kick a little bit more. um, and so I think it just sort of allows the bass to slot into the track and connect with the drums really well by adding that, and it also um, sort of increases that low end and sort of warms it up and really connects everything together, connects sort of the bass and the drums together, which I think is really nice. And yeah, that's sort of it for the bass. It's fairly simple. I didn't want to go sort of overkill on the bass. I thought I wanted to keep it sort of like natural and sort of, because as a band we play what we've played mainly, just sort of like live and stuff. I sort of wanted to kind of keep some of that. Um, so it's sort of like, it's not like this is all completely like electronic and things. I still want to keep that sort of, that slight sort of live kind of feel to it. So that's sort of why the bass is fairly natural, and I haven't processed it like a lot. But that's what I've done to the bass.